Oh, that's right. That's
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
Good morning, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started in a few seconds. First of all, I want to take the opportunity to introduce to you DMV's acting commissioner who will be chairing this board meeting, Ms. Linda Ford.
welcome.
Linda has been with the state for a period of time now, and I'll let her introduce herself as far as a little bit more about you, and then we'll go around the table and introduce ourselves to her as well.
Thank you, William. Yes, Linda Ford with DMV. I have actually been with the state, I hesitate to say, 35 years. So I spent the first half of my career over in the legislative branch, the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission. Basically, it's an agency that tells state agencies what to do, what they're doing wrong, and how to correct it. Then I decided I needed to actually deal with operations, the operational side of things. So I moved over to DMV and have been here since 2004, working in various capacities, governmental affairs, data analytics, and operations as well. So I'm happy to be here.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
Ron, go ahead.
I'm Ron Cody. I own the local Richmond Ford dealerships. I'm a Ford dealer here in the area for some time and have been on the board for a number of years and enjoy the opportunity to help represent the dealers in Virginia.
Linda, we worked together at DMV for a few years, so I'm familiar with her and she's familiar with me. I don't know if it's good or bad, but we'll find it out later on. But glad to see you. Welcome.
I'm David Duncan, Duncan Automotive Network, based out of Blacksburg, Virginia. I think this year marks my 8th year on the board, and it's all good. And but no, our family's been a Ford dealer there in Blacksburg since 1963, and got brothers, siblings in the business. The industry's been quite thankful for the industry. I feel like it's my way to serve. So.
Is there
So you're doing, oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say you're doing very well then right now since tech.
I was gonna say, is there a university down there?
Yeah, there's a small little school down there called Virginia Tech. Yeah, heard of it. No.
I'm a Wahoo, so it's a little tough. My brother and sister went to tech, so I had to say congratulations.
It was hard to say that on I'm Steve Farmer, Auto Sales in Ala Vista. I've been on this board for 19 years, so it's been a pleasure serving, and we'll continue to go.
Hi, Jeff Malloy. I'm a Ford, Toyota, Chevy, Cadillac dealer. I've got locations in Charlottesville, Winchester, and Alexandria. And I think I've been on the board for 8 years, same as David. But happy to be here.
I'm Rob Fisher. I'm from Manassas, Virginia. I've been an independent dealer for 43 years. We've sold about 20,000 cars and trucks in our time. I've got about 12 employees. Been on the board about 6 years. Very glad to serve. It's a tremendous industry. Thank you.
Maurice Slaughter, Portsmouth, Virginia. Bayside, Harley Davidson, Ducati. Also dealerships in Maryland, dealerships in North Carolina as well. It's a pleasure to be here.
Senior Sagafi, dealer in Leesburg, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Sewer, and Kia. And I've been a member since 2016, and been in business for 33 years. And I'd like to welcome you as a chair.
Good morning, I'm Dennis Elmer, Priority Auto Group. Mainly operate, we're all over the state. We operate, my office and home is in Chesapeake, Virginia. I've been on the board, I guess that I'm probably the newest person in the room. So, but I'm glad to be here and glad you have.
Dennis has more locations than McDonald's.
I'm Andrew Wiley. I own Consumers Auto Warehouse, a used car dealership in Stanton, Virginia. I've only been on the board for about the same as Dennis, I think about a little over a year. I'm also the chairman of the board for the State Used Car Dealer Association.
Dan Bannister. I have 3 locations, 2 in Virginia, close to Dennis Elmer in Chesapeake and Norfolk, and I have one in Ford dealership in Maryland, and I've been on the board for about 4 years.
Yes.
I'm Chris Mayer. Out of Winchester, Virginia. We have 2 locations, about 45 employees. I have 7 kids and 4 of them were running the business for me. So been on the board for a little over 8 years. Welcome.
And that's a quick overview of the people you'll be working with. Just, you know who they are, and as for your information, the morning session, the first session is usually committee meetings. So the committees will go through the various meetings and reports, and then all people are allowed to sit in and listen to it. But only the committee members can vote during the committee. Questions, you can ask questions you are chairing the meeting, but for the most part, committees meet, and then the second session will be your meeting, and you'll be taking up the things that they do in their meetings, plus some other things that I'll mention. So with that said, Mr. Cody, you want to go ahead and do what you normally do.
I'd like to call the Dealer Practices Committee meeting to order. Alice, if you would please be so kind as to read the roll.
Ron Cody,
Here?
Steve Farmer,
Here.
Michael Bohr, Basil Borges, Gardner Britt, Rob Fisher,
Here.
Chris Mayer,
Here.
Jeff Malloy,
Here.
Mark Riblett, Senior Sagapi,
Here.
Andrew Wiley.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you very much, Alice. I want to let everybody know in attendance that public comments will be taken for those items listed on the agenda and only those items listed on the agenda. For those that would like to speak, you'll be given 2 opportunities, one in the committee meetings, which is what we're doing now, and then again during the full board meeting if you would like to speak as well. So committee members, a summary of the meeting notes from the last meeting are in your book. I assume if there's no objections, those minutes are approved. And there are updates in your notebook as well from our last meeting. There is no old business on the agenda, and I will move on if there's any old business from the floor. Let me ask first. Hearing no old business from the floor, we'll go on to new business. New business tab 1 is our very first order of business. Harding's Auto Sales. William, if you would please read the case.
Harding's Auto Sales and Brett Harding. On November the 4th, 2021, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1529 and 46.2-1575, number 2. Based on the information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended assessing a civil penalty of $750, a satisfactory inspection, and successful completion of a 2-day dealer operator course.
Okay, is there anybody here to speak to tab 1, Harding's Auto Sales? Okay, if you would please approach the podium and state your name.
I don't really have a whole lot to say about it, and I agree with what his decision was.
Okay, and your name?
Brent Harding?
Brent Harding, okay. So you agree with the hearing officer's recommendation of a $750 civil penalty, completion of the dealer class, and also the satisfactory inspection?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I've also hired a new employee who was in charge of a franchise dealership in North Carolina to also take the class with him, so it'll be 2 people with the certification.
Okay, great, thank you. Discussion from the committee? Any discussion?
Move that we accept the hearing officer's recommendation.
Rob Fisher makes a motion to accept the hearing officer's recommendation of the $750 civil penalty, completion of the dealer class, and a satisfactory inspection. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Andrew Wiley seconds that. If we can go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. The motion of a $750 civil penalty, completion of dealer academy of the of class, and also a satisfactory inspection. So we'll move on to tab 2. Tab 2 is ABC Motors. William, if you'd please read tab 2.
Yes, ABC Motors LLC and Naphtali Lev. On January 25th, 2022, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1537, and 46.2-1559. Based on the information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended assessing a civil penalty of $60,000 and a satisfactory follow-up inspection. Should that inspection not be satisfactory, suspension is warranted.
Okay, is there anybody in attendance to speak to tab 2?
Yes.
Okay, if you would approach the podium, sir, and state your name.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Naftali Lev, and I'm the owner of ABC Motors in Portsmouth.
Okay,
Now, we got an inspection at the dealership, and I was not present because I just went to a surgery. I got amputation of my right leg, and I spoke with the representative of the dealer board over the phone, and she told me that she's going to do the inspection and send me a report. And based on the report, we were invited to the fact-finding conference, and after the fact-finding conference, we make all kinds of we did everything that we could to make it right. And then we were told that we're going to have a reinspection on the 25th of February, that we prepare ourselves, and this inspection was never happened. Now, ABC Motors employs several families that their living is done by the sales of the dealership. Now, this was a very challenging year for us, and I hope this year will be a better year. And I would like the dealer board to have some consideration of the penalty. And that's all what I got to say. Thank you.
okay. Questions?
I have a question. Your POD tax rating, it was 1,140 tags issued. Is that during your presence, or?
Well, based on the POD, this year not only was a challenge year, but when we sold vehicles, the DMV, for people to go to DMV and issue tags, they're supposed to have 60 days, 90 days, and we were forced to issue secondary tags, and this accumulates to lots of tags.
So you sold the cars you sold that year?
Well, the list was showing that we were at 250 cars.
You issued about 4 tags on average for each car?
Well, everything depending on how long the customer supposed to wait. Many times we got customers that they're supposed to wait 120 days, and we didn't have any other way to let them drive. So we issued multiple tags.
Hey guys, my name Hollis Parker. I'm a salesman at ABC Motors, and I'm kind of the one that's overseeing the car lot too. And he's not elaborating on the issue with the tags. Like, it was we had a salesman that was working there, and from my case, I think that he kind of compromised Nat's password, Nat's 30-day tag password. And that was when we caught it, that was a big issue of the tags. Like from now, I see like it haven't since probably about maybe the last 11 months, maybe. The tag account has been down to like 25 to 30 tags per month. And I know we haven't, from them tags back then that's been printed, it was excessive tags being printed. You know, that was a time during the pandemic when a lot of people couldn't go to DMV. So it was an issue. Someone had stole Nat's password. And I'm not saying that, but we should be better, you know, considerate of keeping your password a little bit, but that was a main issue for the 1,100 tags. I know it wasn't 1,100 tags. I think we had like, when we went back over the paperwork, I think it was like 900 and some deals. And the rest, I know we couldn't account for the rest because it was stolen.
So this is basically 57,000 is the bulk of the penalty that
Mhm.
they're hitting you with. Is there any, I mean, obviously this wasn't all your customers.
No.
So somebody was.
Yes, because it was two complaints, like two women, like a woman from, I think it was two women from this area in Richmond area that was like, I didn't get a car from ABC Motors, and we couldn't find any paperwork on that woman, her car, and is a big complaint. So, and I already knew what it was. Like someone printed her some tags and just printed tags on anybody's car. She got tolls or something, and she said she didn't get a car from the dealership. So that was a big issue.
So you know, what's your position with this company?
Salesman.
So you knew this tags are being issued because.
I did. We didn't know at the time till we caught it. Till I think that was the issue when the lady came. We like, what? Like, who's printed some tags? Because we have a log of every tag that been printed out, and we had no clue of this tag, a Victoria Kelso. Like, we didn't have no clue of this tag, and she said she didn't get a tag, so we had to figure out what was the issue, and I figured the issue out. So I seen someone posting tags and selling tags on Facebook. So I figured the issue out, like someone was stealing tags. So, and he stole the password. I know that's what I really think the issue was. I know the issue was.
So question for Ned, what do you have, what kind of measurement do you have to get that fixed?
Well, we changed obviously the password first of all, and right now nobody got access to the computer other than one person. So basically we minimize all the possibilities that somebody to enter the computer. We change all the passwords, and right now everything is on.
How long has been this on?
Well, right after the inspection was done, and then we saw the astronomical numbers, we took the way to fix everything, and
Now you're back to work full time?
well, right now part-time because of my amputation and between doctors and all this stuff. So right now I'm part-time at the dealership, and my sales people that takes care of the rest of the day. So hopefully pretty soon I'll be able to.
Mr. Leverett, are you the dealer operator?
Yes.
Do you have any other dealer operators at all?
Well, I can. One of my salespeople.
So he just raised his hand. Are you a dealer operator or sales?
No, I'm actually in process of taking the dealer operator test. So I'm actually in process.
So who was at the dealership when these tags were getting printed out, because they didn't get printed out somewhere else. They got printed out at the dealership. Were you there at the dealership when this was happening?
I was probably there, but no, I'm not saying, but I think he accessed through an app or maybe a computer, other land
Do
computer.
that with the software. Software goes straight through the computer of the dealership. It's connected to the dealership.
No, I think he can though. I think he can. But
It's my understanding you have to do it from a dealership computer, and they have the IP address on that to connect into that system.
Yeah, and the other thing is that the software companies, all the vendors require that the password be changed every 30 to 45 days. It's part of the protocol with the software. And Chris is right. You have to register the IP address, and you don't just do that with the password. You have to have the code for the dealership to do that. So there's no way that these tags were somebody stole a password and used it for 6-7 months. Like these tags are like these registers showing without it happening at the dealership. That's the only place that it can be done.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying anyone's wrong, but I personally seen it access from someone's tablet or whatever. I seen it access in I don't know if pods give you I haven't never seen them call and say change the password.
Can staff comment on this at all? I mean, I don't know this system enough, but I mean, again, I think we're all perplexed by the fact that how does over 1,100 tags get issued, some 3 to 11 times on the same customer, and the dealer doesn't know it? I would think they're having to pay fees or something along the way, or something's going on here that, how can the dealership not know that this is going on? Yes, please.
Alicia Moore with DMV Deputy Director and Vehicle Services Administration. Depending upon the vendor, but each vendor has IP addresses, the location of where the tags are printed, who printed the tag, what time they printed the tag. There's a plethora of information. Each vendor system is set up differently. However, the tags, when you are accessing the system, it should not be at a remote location as a violation of the contract that DMV has with the vendor.
So I just want to be clear. So am I capable of doing a remote login to my dealership and then logging into the POD system and then printing tags remotely, or no, I'm not?
No, you're not.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I assume that all of these systems, that if you went in, there'd be some historical, yeah, I mean, so you'd know something was going on.
Correct.
Okay.
So, but you don't mind. So I hear what you're telling me, or at least I think I can read between the lines of what you're telling me. You know, somebody was in that dealership print tags, okay? And that being said, you know, you're somebody who was there who knew that was happening too. You just testified to me that you knew that was happening. So give me a second, sir. Okay. I feel for the gentleman on your left there. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to go through that kind of medical operation to be separated from the dealership. But there's other people at the dealership who are aware of what's going on here. And this is not a minor infraction. This is after thorough investigation, after the hearing officers recommended, this is what it is. And we're trying to figure out, is there anything that we're missing here that the hearing officer didn't miss? And I don't hear anything that we're missing that he missed. Go ahead, sir.
I personally called when the tags was, when unknown tags was being printed out. I personally called the pods, and they actually pulled up, hey, yeah, it is 3-4 different IP addresses that's on that's this tag been printed, this tag and that tag. It's 4 different IP. So I'm pretty sure that those tags was printed elsewhere. You know, I'm not saying anyone's wrong. If anyone got a laptop, anyone has you can check and see if you can pull up your account.
Were you there and testifying to the hearing officer during the interview with the hearing officer with the other board?
Mm-hmm.
You were there? Did
Yeah.
you tell him this information?
Yes,
So he's got this information. He's reviewed it. He's come up with these conclusions.
yes. And they had supposed to, like you said, they supposed to came back. They said they're gonna do a reinspection of everything. They never came back to do a reinspection.
Other questions? Anybody from committee?
Well, I was gonna ask, did you find out who was printing the tags?
I'm not 100% sure. He's not 100% sure, but I'm at least 90% sure, like who was doing it. I'm 90%. He's no longer with us anymore. I don't know if he's at another dealership or he had a lot of bad deals, like going to court. We gotta go to court. You gotta go to court at the end of the month for a deal that he did. So I'm 90%. I'm not gonna say 100, but I'm 90%.
Alicia, is DMV taking up criminal charges against these folks for what they've done? Sorry to put you on the spot.
And the only reason I'm looking, this is kind of a collaboration between our administration and Barbara Upright from law enforcement, as we're still partnering for print-on-demand violations that we find. Barbara, can you better answer that question? Your folks are out there.
Yes, we do have, I don't know if it's a reference to this case specifically, but I know we do have a case that has involved this dealership.
In regards to POD tags,
It was in relationship to not issuing a title in compliance. But I didn't
I guess what I was looking for is, I'm trying to figure out, I mean, this was reviewed by the hearing officer. I tend to follow through with what the hearing officer's recommendation is, and that is a financial pain on the owner. And financial, sometimes educations cost money. This one's going to cost them quite a bit, okay? But is there a criminal charge for sitting around pushing that button, printing those tags out, selling for $50 to $100 on Craigslist or Facebook?
I checked our system this morning and I didn't see where we had the referred case for that particular issue.
However, I would like to comment on our vehicle services, not for Barbara. Barbara's portion is separate. They are a part of the print-on-demand hearing. They have a date. I'm not sure if it's scheduled, but we are within DMV have scheduled that for violations for print-on-demand.
And for clarification, Alicia, your processes, whether or not they have access to the system or don't have access to the system. As far as what DMV does for print on demand, your hearing does nothing but say, okay, you have access to it, or your access has been denied. That's all y'all can do.
That's
Right?
all.
There's no criminal investigation then? It's just an access?
Not for our purposes, it's
Okay.
just point of action.
I guess my comment on all this is even if there's some way, which again, we use DealerTrack, one of the vendors, and you cannot print tags remotely. There's an IP address, you have to call in, they change the password. This went on for 8 months, according to this record that's shown here. And they charge your dealership $3 every time one of these is run. So what kind of oversight do you have at that store? I mean, you've got somebody stolen a password, there's somebody printing tags. Even if we believe that they were printing them remotely and you couldn't see that, you're getting dinged $3 every time this happens. There's 1,200 of these coming through, and you don't some point before the DMV comes in or before the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board comes in and does an inspection, you don't say, whoa, something's happening here. I mean, that's literally hundreds of dollars a month in temp tag fees that are hitting your bank account. And you don't see that and say, hey, there's something wrong here. It just makes me wonder about the rest of it. If you're missing all that, you can't even tell that somebody's hitting your bank account over and over and over again for $3 a shot 100 times a month when you're selling 20 cars a month. How do you explain that?
Not paying attention to the bank account. The bank, I don't know how your bank account is set up, but not paying attention to the bank account. got so many things coming out your bank account. It's 100, maybe $300-400, you know. Not paying attention to it.
And you all think this was a salesperson who did this? And have they been terminated? Because we're not showing any records of any termination.
He was took off, right?
There's a fine in here for unlicensed sales. So maybe we have a case where there was unlicensed sales. This whole thing is just melting down in their lap. Here's the deal. You know, he's not capable of running the dealership physically because of his health concerns. He doesn't have a dealer operator at the dealership right now. You know, the mice are playing the cat's away. You know, that's what we're dealing with right here. There's not even a recommendation in here for a dealer operator class, for God's sakes. I'm like, what in the world? You know, this is a big problem.
At that time, he wasn't capable.
Well, in regard to dealer operator, I'm willing, you know, to, at the moment, you know, to step down and install another dealer operator just to cure this problem.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Discussion by committee? Any discussion? So as Chris mentioned, the fine is for dealer records. They went in 3 or 4 times and could not get sufficient dealer records at this location. The significant fine of $57,000 for 1,140 POD tag violations and $2,000 for 8 salespeople not properly documented within the system and W-2s. So that's how the $60,000 comes about. If there's no discussion about a motion.
I'd like a discussion. I'll make a motion.
Okay.
You know, the gentleman on my left over there said that he's going to step up and be the dealer operator. Okay. You know, at this point here, I would expect nothing less than somebody needs to follow through with the dealer operator class, because this has gone over great with the dealer operator class, how to protect this from happening, how to keep it from happening, passwords and those things. So I would make a recommendation. If the gentleman on the right, the owner, is going to stay in the dealership, he needs to go to a dealer operator class. And if he's going to appoint a new dealer operator, I make a recommendation that that person, obviously they're going to have to go through the class anyway, because if they're going to get their dealer operator license, they've got to go through the class. So that's going to solve that issue there. So recommendation would be to accept the hearing officer's recommendation for a $60,000 fine, and also to have somebody attend the dealer operator class.
So the motion is $60,000 fine as the hearing officer recommended, satisfactory inspection, and to attend the dealer operator class. And that is your motion, Chris?
Yes, sir.
I'll second that. Steve Farmer seconds that motion. Let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Who will take the class?
So the dealer operator has to take the class, whoever that is at the time. Right?
That is correct.
That is correct. So
Is there a
motion,
time frame on that, sir?
it's always within
Yeah.
90 days.
Okay.
It's a default time.
You'll be, you all are welcome to stay and speak at the full board meeting as well. Okay, thank you. Tab 3, South American Motors, Inc.
South American Motors, Inc. and Elva Benitez. On January the 11th, 2022, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1559, and 46.2-1575, number 2. Based on the information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended assessing a civil penalty of $7,750, a satisfactory inspection, and successful completion of a 2-day dealer operator course.
Is there anyone here to speak to tab 3? South American Motors. Okay. Discussion by committee?
I'd make a motion that we accept the hearing officer's recommendation.
Is there a second to?
I'll second it.
Andrew seconds it. So the motion is for a $7,750 fine, a successful inspection of the dealership, and dealer operator to attend the class. That is the motion, and it has been seconded. Vote by committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. Tab 4, E&E Auto Sales, Marquise Johnson.
E&E Auto Sales LLC and Marquise Johnson. On January the 19th, 2020, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1537, and 46.2-1559. Based on the information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended assessing a civil penalty of $6,100, satisfactory inspection within 90 days, and successfully completion of the 2-day deal operator course.
Is there anybody in attendance to speak to tab 4, E&E Auto Sales?
Yes, sir. I don't have anything to say. I just take full responsibility for my negligence in that situation.
Okay. Okay. Discussion by committee. And I'm sorry, your name?
Marquise Johnson.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion or a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Make a motion, we accept the hearing officer's recommendation. Sir, thank you for stepping up and taking responsibility. It's nice to hear that. It's refreshing.
Second.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. The motion is to accept the hearing officer's recommendation of a $6,100 civil penalty, inspection within 90 days, and dealer operator training. We'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. I'm a nay. But that'll come up in full board for more discussion. But the motion carries. E&E Auto Sales, $6,100 fine, and completion of the dealer operator class and successful inspection. Thank you, sir. Tab 5, Car of Mine Incorporated.
Car of Mine and Amalfi Arias. On January 26, 2022, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1533, and 46.2-1575, number 2. Based on information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended assessing a civil penalty of $1,000.
Is there anybody in attendance? Yes, sir. Please take the podium and state your name.
My name is Amalfi Arias, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Sure.
What you find in the at the hearing is accurate. I did not have my records available, but I just want to speak about what's happened over the last 3 years. I started my business 3 years ago, and a very experienced board member actually told me, said, if you're doing everything right, you're not going to be profitable for the first couple. Well, I think I'm smarter than the average bear, so I thought I could beat the system, and I did very well in my first year, right? But then COVID hit, and my business model was just turned upside down. I tried many different things. I tried to get some stock, cheap cars, etc. It was a struggle. Not being in this business full time was definitely a challenge, and so much so that I'm going to have to be back here next Monday to face a court for one of my trusted partners, Carfax, that couldn't pay them. They're taking me to court $4,800, and I'll have to be back here on Monday. With that said, I did everything to stay afloat, paid my bills, treated my customers right. If you guys look at my ratings, Car of Mine, I have 5-star ratings across the board, Yelp, Facebook, etc. I treat my customers well, and I think I can do this. I think I can do this car business in the right way, and I tried to do everything the right way. The last minute, come September, I had to renew my license. I was on the fence. I was basically going to shut the business down. It did not make sense to spend another $40,000-$50,000 to keep the business afloat. But that's where I was. So much so that I didn't take my continuing education courses. So I had to take the 3-day course over again. At the same time, I found some inexpensive commercial property in Orange, Virginia, where I had to move all my stuff. I did that literally in the last 3 days before my license ended. I submitted all my paperwork and I moved. The Motor Vehicle Dealer Board representative called me and said, "Hey, we're going to do an inspection." I was like, "Hey, I'll be ready." I moved everything. I cleaned up. It was a very old site, cheap commercial property. You can expect they're going to have to do a lot of work. So I cleaned it up, made it look presentable, made sure that my signs were up, etc. But with that said, I failed to have moved a key component, and that was my my records. So my records were not available that day. With that said, I took the 3-day operating course. I have established my business. I've created new partners. I'm set up to be successful, I think, over the next year. And I'm going to continue to do things the right way. But I would respectfully ask that you waive the fine of $1,000, because that, and combined with the Carfax situation that I got going on, I just don't know if I can make this business viable again, or if it's even worth it. So with that, again, that's my request to this board, and I'll take any questions.
So there were 2 other attempts prior to your movement to inspect your records, and you were not open, and you paid that fine, right? There was a $750 civil penalty for those. And then the date of your movement is when they came and records were not available again when they did your opening inspection, right?
That's correct.
Is that how I heard? Okay.
Right, and if you notice, those dates were the first year. John Smith was my inspector. He actually educated me on a lot of things that, hey, we make sure my records are up to date, make sure this is that, etc. And I listened, and I did, and I rectified the situation. Over the last 2 years, I've held those hours. All right, so I was there, records available, but for whatever reason, I didn't get inspected. But I got inspected when I reopened, which was obviously a trigger point.
So I have a question. I'm not clear, when did you get this fine? When you called Mr. Smith to come and inspect your new location?
No, it was a new inspector. The last fine was when I called Motor Vehicle Dealer Board and said, "Hey, I'm moving locations."
Right.
Yeah.
That's when they came and gave you a fine?
Yeah, and I don't know if the officer's here, but she gave me plenty of warning. Hey, I'm going to come here on this date at 11 o'clock, and I said I'll be ready.
And where were your records?
In a warehouse where I had stored everything prior to moving.
You explained that to her.
I did, and it didn't seem like a big deal, but she did her report, and 4 or 5 days later, I got a.
Yeah, and that's really because it was really the 3rd time. You paid
Right,
the fine
and
for the 2 previous.
Which I didn't think it was a big deal at the time.
Sure.
Knowing what I've known now, I would have fought that and said, "Hey, I was really open," because at the time I could have probably gotten that waive. But anyway, this is the 3rd time, and the report is accurate.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. A discussion by committee?
So I'm not sure if it was the same location that the inspection was done, I could see the penalty. But if he's calling for a new inspection or new location, then obviously there's always going to be something that needs to be done, and it's not completed. So I don't know if the penalty was hit because of that, or.
So again, as I mentioned, it was the,
Prior.
2 at the prior location. He paid that fine.
Right.
His $1,000 fine now is really made up of 2 elements: prior warnings and the fact that the records weren't available, 500 each. And that's how the fine comes about to 1,000. So, I'm sure the person that went to go do the inspection said, "Come on, you gotta be kidding me. I told you I was coming. This isn't even a surprise." and the records aren't available. So, you know, obviously they can't look the other way. The records are not available. At a minimum, that's a $500 fine. And since he had prior violations, 1529 applies, which is, you know, not in heating.
I would assume that whoever the inspector was would say, well, I'm not going to give you a license because you don't have your information or, you know, your files.
Well, he already had his license. It was a change to move locations.
Right.
So that's how the whole
Okay, so
inspection came
I
about.
understand. So that was the second inspection that he was actually operational.
Say that,
Was he actually operational on the second? Because if you move to a new location, you can't just start doing business until you call DMV and they come inspect the place and give you the license, you know, tags or whatever. So.
well, and they
that's-
didn't hold him up. He's operational. It's just,
that's
he
the
didn't have
area
his
I'm not
records.
Confused about.
He didn't have his records available for the third time, like Canada.
I'd like some clarification.
Mhm.
Sir, when they came to your dealership, was it the dealership, the old dealership or the new dealership for the inspection?
It was new.
New
So
location.
they were opening up the new dealership. And they asked you for records.
Right.
And you did, and the records were for the old dealership?
Well, it's just, he changed locations.
So you changed locations and you said those are in storage right now.
Right. I moved just the minimal stuff that I could get at the time. So there were some, like my printer wasn't there.
Had you been charged before for not keeping records or having them available at the old location?
I had paid $1,000 fine before, yes. And I think it was a combination of the warning and the second time.
That was previous to this.
It was
750.
previous to this. It was
Yes.
at the original dealership, and it was within my first year. I want to make sure that you know that. And I maintain records and everything else.
Do you have those records at the dealership now, the new dealership?
Yes.
And
Thank you.
if I may, I bring to the board's attention, this board a few years ago passed a policy for 1533 violations. The first time was a warning. The second time was a civil penalty. The third time, they will get a civil penalty and come before the board. That's where he basically is right now. And the 1533, if you don't remember, was not maintaining business hours because you're required by law to be at least open for a minimum of 20 hours during the week. And 10 of those hours must be between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m.
But here we don't have hours, we have records, correct?
So records is part of it, yes. Yeah.
Is there any hours? part of this?
1533 is part of it too. 1533 is one of the code violations.
They had no further action on 1533, but it was
Right.
listed.
Right.
I'll make a recommendation.
So, and just before you make your recommendation, you know, we provide the ability through a payment plan to pay the fine over a 6-month period. So keep that in the back of your mind as you're thinking about the impact to someone's business. Okay?
I want to be sensitive to the fact the guy just moved to a new location. And that he has no previous consumer-related issues at all. And I think we cut the fine in half to $500 call it a day. That's my recommendation.
So the premise behind that would be you're really not fining them for the prior notifications, but still for the fact that records were not available.
Correct.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
Is that what you wanted to say?
Yes, sir. That's what I
Okay.
want to say.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Robert Fisher seconds that motion. The motion is to reduce the fine and not charge him for the 1529, which is prior notification, and simply charge him for records not being available, which is a $500 fine. Is there a requirement for an inspection? I don't.
Yes.
There is a requirement for an inspection. There is no requirement for educational. No inspection either.
I didn't see anything about.
Yeah, no
just
inspection or education. So.
I think we
let-
should add inspection.
Excuse
because
me?
We should add another inspection because the records they weren't there at the time.
So the motion has already been made and seconded. So I think we need to go ahead and vote on the motion unless you're willing to take an amendment to that motion. You can amend it. So would you like to amend the motion to require an inspection?
I'd rather vote not amend it.
Let's go, so we have a motion to amend it. We could vote on the motion to amend it. And then if that's declined, then we'll go back to the original motion. Thank you, sir. Is there a second to amending the motion? Is there any second? Then the motion dies for lack of a second. So we go back to the fact that the motion is for a $500 fine, a satisfactory no training and no inspection. Training with no inspection. We have a first and a second to the motion. We'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. I'm not going to state what the motion was again, Alice, okay? That is tab 5. That completes our new business. Is there any other new business from the floor? Hearing none, dealer practices next meeting will be on May the 9th, and we are adjourned.
I would like to call a license committee to order. Alice, can you call a roll for me, please?
Maurice Slaughter.
Here.
Ted Bailey. James Bannister.
Here.
Liza Borges. Gardner Britt. David Duncan.
Here.
Dennis Elmer.
Here.
Rob Fisher.
Here.
Senior Sagafi.
Here.
Hey, folks, you all better leave it. Just remember that your
Andrew
case is
Wiley.
Here.
again in full board. Right? So
Leave.
You can say if you want to.
I'd like to remind the public that you'll be given an opportunity to speak for your item when it comes up, if you choose so at that time. I'd like to make a motion for approval for the November 8th meeting, which was the last meeting we held because of the weather. We didn't have a regular January meeting. So can those minutes be approved? Call for a vote.
No, you don't need to vote.
No vote? Okay. All right. Any old business from the floor? With no old business from the floor, I'd like to move on to new business. William?
Yes. Jeffrey, all sales applicant. On December the 6th, 2021, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1575, number 13. Based on the information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended approval of a sales license with the presentation of character references to the board.
Is there anyone to speak on this today? Yeah, please.
Thank you for this time. I have been trying for the last 8 years to obtain my salesman's license to sell vehicles for Mr. Wood here in the city of Portsmouth. I was turned down because I have a felony record, and I have been given my rights back by the governor of the state. And I've had my background checked, and I have been helping Mr. Wood repair his vehicles. And I am also a licensed Department of Game and Inland Fisheries watercraft salesperson. And I still cannot figure why DMV would not allow me to have a license. And I'm here to try to get my license so I can help Mr. Wood in his business to take a lot of strain off of his shoulders. I have been here to Richmond 3 or 4 times to appeal this. And hopefully this will be the last time that I have to come up here to get my license to help Mr. Wood out. And I appreciate it if you would give me the chance to help him out and give me my salesman license so I can help myself and help the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
Just that the hearing officer recommended that the gentleman bring character references to the board. Is that something you did? Did you bring?
I've talked to a few people and they were supposed to have, but they never did, except for Mr. Wood here, which came with me, which I've known him for about 35, 40 years.
You're gonna be working for Mr. Woods?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's a strong character witness.
I was gonna say, I'd like to hear from Mr. Wood.
So would you like to say something about him?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Ronald Wood. As far as my character, I ran for sheriff in the city of Portsmouth in 2013. I had extensive background investigations into my character, and I seemingly passed that because I ran for the office. Unfortunately, I didn't quite make it, but Mr. All has been in my knowledge of friendship for over 40 years. He has done mechanic work for me for over 40 years. Prior to him coming around me at my dealership, which I've had for 30 years in the city of Portsmouth. Mr. All was around doing mechanic work. He realized that we needed another salesperson, approached me 7 years ago and asked me, can I sell cars for you? I said, I'd love to have you sell cars for me because you're a good guy. He takes his test, he passes his test, and then we were denied, not once, not twice, but 3 times. I came up here 3 different times with him to the board meeting across the street. This is the first time in this board here. And 3 times we were denied. They told him, come back in a couple years and we'll see what's going on because we're right now going to deny you. He then obtained a salesman's license through the state of Virginia to sell through my watercraft department. And I have a motorcycle dealer's license, a car dealer license, and a watercraft license. He's been denied the right to sell motorcycles and cars through the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board. But yet the Inland Game and Fisheries state organized entity, the same as this, grants him the right to do so. Then he applied about 6 months ago, inquired what he had to do because he's waited 7 years. His supposed probation of 2 years is over, times 3. He applied. They told him what he had to do. He went down, took his test, passed his test first time, just like he did the first time that he took it. He's been around me. He knows what time it is. He sees how bad it is to try to find somebody that can sell cars. We've put applications in papers trying to get salespeople. Impossible. I've had people that come to me want to work for me, but want me to lease them a tag. I don't do that. If you're going to work for me, you're going to sell cars off my lot. Mr. All, he knows that. So we went through the application the second time 60 days ago. He was denied. Then we had a board meeting that was scheduled, maybe apparently this same thing in November of last year. And because of a committee member that wasn't here or a chair that wasn't here, it was postponed. And we're coming back again today. And I'm telling you, as a businessman of almost 30 years owning my business, that Mr. All knows what I need and I know what he needs. He needs a job. He has been granted his rights back by our governor. Our governor gave him his rights back. And I just stand in firm belief that when a man pays his dues to society, prison-wise, incarceration, probation, delinquency from all the things that he's supposed to be able to have as a pursuit of happiness in his life, he's paid his due. He wants to work for me above board like he's supposed to as a licensed salesperson, with taxes taken out on him, as I do my other salespeople. We're trying to do this thing right, and I'm here on his behalf that he's a good man. He can come around my family. He handles my money, pays bills for me, works on my cars, and I trust him. So with all due respect, I'm asking the board and the peers, would you please consider his application because of the 2 past applications where he'd taken his tests, he's never failed them, and he has not caused me any grief, customer relationships, theft, or anything. He's an honest man, and I stand up for him. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slaughter. May I add some clarity to the statement? Please, just so we have context of what's going on here. I cannot speak for the time it came for the board 7 years ago, but I can speak for the last 6 months. Mr. Hall did approach me out in November of last year about a salesperson's license. We gave him the process, which he got through in a month, because we knew what he was trying to do. But the meeting he mentioned about November was the January board meeting, which we didn't have a chair. So we did not meet in January, so we couldn't consider this case in January. For the most part, no, we don't have a problem with it, but the problem that we have in denying him in the office is not because we deny him based off of his background. I recognize that his rights were restored by the governor, but what I think people don't realize is that this board years ago denied him the application. I do not have the authority to overturn a board decision. So therefore, we had to deny him to get him back before the board again. The board is the one who denied him. The board needs to be the one that's going to approve him. We don't have that authority at the staff level to do that, which is why he's here before the board.
Well, being from Portsmouth, I don't know Mr. Woods personally, but I know of him and I know of his character, and it's unquestionable. I think the board gave him the avenue how to do it, was to come back in front of the board, bring a character witness, which I think he brought an outstanding character witness. And for you to take off from your business and be here and to continue this process, I think that says a lot about both of you all. So at this point, I would like to open it up to the floor, and hopefully someone's going to recommend that we approve it. And let's move forward.
I'd make a motion.
Can I get a second?
I got a second.
Call for the vote.
Yes.
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 Anybody opposed?
No, anybody opposed? Nope. All right. So with that, we will approve it. And I thank you all. We have come back, still have a meeting this, later on this morning in front of the full board.
You say we have to come back?
Yeah,
Oh.
I would recommend you just hang around.
Okay.
You come too far not to stay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
There's no any other new business in front of the board. There is none. The next meeting is scheduled in May. And if that's the case, I'd like to adjourn.
All right. Call the advertising committee meeting to order. Alice, call the roll, please.
David Duncan.
Here.
Ted Bailey. Dan Bannister.
Here.
Michael Bohr. Martha Borges. Dennis Elmer.
Here.
Ron Cody.
Here.
Jeff Lloyd.
Here.
Mark Ritter. Maurice Slaughter.
Here.
Don Sullivan.
All right, if you'd like to make a public comment, when the appropriate time on the agenda comes up, you have an opportunity to speak at that time. If there are no objections, I'd like to approve the November meeting summary. Objections? Approved. We did not have any summary from the January board meeting because we did not have one. So let me go to the public comment portion of the meeting. Is there any old business? Agenda. Is there any old business from the floor? Seeing none. Is there any new business? And any new business from the floor? Seeing none, our next meeting will be Monday, May 19th, 2022. This advertising committee meeting is adjourned.
Call the transaction recovery meeting to order. Alice, would you please call the roll?
Chris Mayer,
Here.
Jeff Malloy,
Here.
Dan Bannister,
Here.
Michael Bohr, Dennis Elmer,
Here.
Steve Farmer,
Here.
Robert Fisher,
Here.
Ron Cody,
Here.
Mark Riblet, Maurice Slaughter,
Here.
Don Sullivan, Andrew Wiley.
Here.
Now it sounds like we have a quorum.
Yes, you do.
Okay. Under public comment, if your name is on the agenda, you'll have an opportunity to speak when that agenda item comes up. I move that we approve the November 8th meeting summary. Is there any old business from the floor? Under new business, tab number 7.
Yes, tab number 7, Joseph O. Basusi versus Washington Motor Cars. On December the 20th, 2021, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code sections 46.2-1527.3 against Washington Motor Cars Incorporated. Based on the information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended approval of payment to Joseph O. Basusi in the amount of $25,000 from the recovery fund.
Any discussion or questions? Anybody here to speak on behalf of this? Tab number 7. Motions?
I'll make a motion to approve a hearing officer.
Steve Farmer makes a motion. We approve the hearing officer's recommendation for a $25,000 payment from the transaction recovery fund.
I'll second it.
Andrew Wiley seconds that. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Tab number 8, William.
Tab 8, Devin Osborne versus Washington Motor Cars. On December the 20th, 2021, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code sections 46.2-1527.3 against Washington Motor Cars Incorporated. Based on information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended approval of payment to Devon Osborne in the amount of $25,000 from the recovery fund.
Is there anybody here to speak to tab number 8? In discussion? Yes, sir.
I just want to make one point.
Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with the final number you were going to say. And Christian Parrish for the attorney general.
Yes, thank you.
But I would just like to note the hearing officer stated after granting the $25,000 payment, what that consisted of and why, and included punitive damages. The number is going to still be above the $25,000 mark for the fraud, which I think was $91,000, but there was $500,000 in punitive damages. It doesn't affect the number the board's going to grant or not grant here, but it should not be stated that punitive damages are included in that rationale.
We're fully aware of
And
that.
I just want to make sure you.
Thanks, Christian. I appreciate that. We can always depend on the Attorney General's office to give us guidance here. So we have heard about tab number 8. There's a $25,000 claim against the board. Is there any further discussion from the committee?
I make the motion. We approve.
Mr. Fisher makes a motion. We approve the hearing officer's recommendation for a $25,000 payoff from the transaction recovery fund. Second by Mr. Slaughter. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Tab number 9, William.
Tab number 9, Carlos Marino versus AutoFax Center LLC. On December 29th, 2021, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code sections 46.2-1527.3 against AutoMax Center LLC. Based on the information provided at the conference, the hearing also recommended no further action be taken because Mr. Marino did not submit his claim pursuant to stipulations governing the Transaction Recovery Fund 46.2-1527.4. The board is unable to remit payment at this time.
Okay, is anybody here to speak on behalf of tab number 9? Any discussion from the committee?
Motion to approve hearing officer's recommendation that we don't.
Mr. Fisher makes a motion. We approve not to make a payment from the Transaction Recovery Fund for improper procedures. Any second?
I'll second.
Second, Andrew Wiley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'd just like to make a comment about tab number 7. I started reading that thing and about 2 hours later. It was pretty heavy. That was the longest one I've ever seen in the history of the transaction recovery fund. That attorney earned his money on that one, that's for sure. All right, so is there any new business from the floor? Hearing none, we'll schedule the next transaction recovery fund meeting for May the 9th. Is that correct? May the 9th it is. And with that being said, we adjourn. Cody?
Okay. Thank you very much. How much time do you need?
15 minutes.
15 minutes? Okay, we will be back in 15 minutes. 9:20, or excuse me, 10:25.
Don't go by that clock. Y'all.
Nobody was late for work today.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Let's come to order now for the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board meeting. And I understand this is the first meeting back at DMV for 2 long years.
Yes.
So certainly welcome back into the DMV headquarters building. We're glad to have everyone back and hopefully no more future interruptions. No more pandemics. So, Alice, could you please call the roll?
Ted Bailey, Dan Bannister.
Here.
Michael Moore, Ozzie Borges, Gardner Britt, David Duncan.
Here.
Dennis Elmer.
Here.
Steve Farmer.
Here.
Rob Fisher.
Here.
Ron Cody.
Here.
Chris Mayer.
Here.
Jeff Malloy.
Here.
Mark Riglett. Senior Sagapi.
Here.
Maurice Slaughter.
Here.
John Sullivan. Andrew Wiley.
Here.
Linda Ford.
Here. Thank you, Alice. We have a quorum. We're going to start with a certificate and a pen.
Yes, Mr. Rob Fisher. Please make your way back here. We're gonna take it back here. John?
The summary of the last meeting, which was November 8th, 2021, is in your board book. If there are no objections to the meeting summary, please note that those who are on the agenda will be given an opportunity to speak when your agenda item comes up in the public comment period. Are there any other public comments related to what's on the agenda? Okay. We're going to now move to the statutory committee reports, and each committee chair will go through their committee actions, starting with the Dealer Practices Committee and Ron Cody.
Commissioner, the Dealer Practice Committee met earlier today. We did have a quorum present. We did approve a summary from the last committee meeting, and we have 5 resolutions for consideration. And William, if you would please read tab 1.
Tab 1, Harding's Auto Sales LLC and Brent Harding. Whereas the board has reviewed and considered the facts and evidence and the report of an informal fact-finding conference as prepared by the hearing officer concerning Harding's Auto Sales and Brent Harding for alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1575, number 2. And whereas based on due consideration, the board believes that the following actions should be taken against Harding's Auto Sales and Brent Harding. 1, assess a civil penalty of $750. 2, Harding's Auto Sales shall be inspected by a motor vehicle dealer board field representative by June 14th, 2022, and that inspection shall be satisfactory. And 3, Brent Harding shall successfully complete the dealer operator course by September the 14th, 2022. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board mandates that Brent Harding hereby be assessed a civil penalty of $750, and the Harding's Auto Sales dealership shall satisfactorily pass an inspection conducted by motor vehicle dealer board field representative on or before June 14th, 2020. And Brent Harding shall successfully complete the dealer operator course by September the 14th, 2022. Therefore, be it further resolved by the board that failure to comply with the board's mandates by the required dates will result in the suspension of all licenses, certificates issued by the board until such time the Harding's Auto Sales Dealership, and Brent Harding successfully complies with the board's mandates.
Ron, is this your committee's motion?
Yes, Commissioner, this is our resolution. Mr. Harding was here, but I do not see him at this time. So I don't know if there's anyone to speak on this.
Is there a second for the motion?
Second. Who you gonna acknowledge? You gotta put a record.
Chris Mayer?
I'm second. Yeah. Who's the first?
No. Motion's here.
Motion's there.
Yeah, you got Chris? Okay, good.
Okay. And is there anyone else that wants to speak? I know you said that the gentleman is not here.
Right.
Okay, let's have a voice, or let's have a show of hands. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2, tab 2, William ABC Motors.
ABC Motors LLC and Naphtali Lab. Whereas the board has reviewed and considered the facts and evidence and the report of an informal fact-finding conference as prepared by the hearing officer concerning ABC Motors and Naphtali Lab for alleged violations of Virginia Code sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1537, and 46.2-1559. And whereas based on due consideration, the board believes that the following actions should be taken against ABC Motors and Naphtali Lab. 1, assess a civil penalty of $60,000. 2, ABC Motors shall be inspected by a motor vehicle dealer board field representative within 30 days, and that inspection shall be satisfactory. If not, the dealer's license shall be suspended. Ignore that part, should be satisfactory. And 3, Naphtali Lab shall successfully complete the dealer board operator course by June 14, 2020.
Is this your committee's motion?
That is the motion.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Okay, Robert Fisher, second. Okay. For discussion. Is this?
I'd like to discuss.
Did you all want to?
He's still here.
Right.
Yes.
Did you want to speak again? If you would go to the podium.
Okay. I just want like the negligence is very wrong, but like I had just proved to
Chris.
Mr. Mayor, like this the pod site could be what is remotely accessed from cell phone, tablet, or any other computer. Like, but we just want to try to lessen this fine kind of, because it's kind of detrimental if 60,000, but please take in consideration, board, please. That's it.
How many vehicles do y'all sell a year? Ballpark.
250, 300 vehicles a year.
Yeah.
What was that?
250, 300.
And we're recommending, the fine is recommended $50,000? $60,000?
Yes.
Don't get excited, but I think that's excessive. I do. On the other side, if it's $60,000, we should call the police. So don't get too excited.
That's my main point of contention, is that we're focused on the money, but what about the criminal aspect of it?
That's what I'm saying.
Why are we not having more focus on that and going after who actually did it? You have a fine, but who did it? Why are we not focused on that? And then I don't think that they've even talked about that. So that's why are we not focused on that?
We are not a criminal organization, sir. We cannot.
Well, we're not, but also, I mean, you can send the case to the detectives and have them, and if we're not going to do that, what kind of board are we if we were not focused on the criminal aspect and find out who actually did it?
We did that, sir.
So we couldn't find out.
We
who
can
it
only
is,
go as far as we can go. We have made the known investigators known about this?
We've talked to the investigator here and they said they weren't even sure if we investigated it. They did it.
Yeah, I can tell you, DMV is going to look into this matter. Do you have any-
We did, and maybe I was not clear in what I said. It was referred to a pod hearing from our agent because the Commonwealth attorney was prosecuted for whatever reason. They didn't have enough information or enough evidence where they couldn't. Sometimes our biggest challenge is proving who actually was the person who sat down and issued that pod tag. If we can't put a face, a body, and a name to who issued that pod tag, most of the Commonwealth's attorneys will not take our case. So that is a huge challenge on our side, which unfortunately is the way the court system works.
And I will say that we have discovered, and thank you for pointing this out, we were not aware that the, and it is against our contract, we're not, the vendor is supposed to prevent the pod to be printed anywhere else except for the computer. It's tied to the computer. And so clearly there's some wrongdoing going on that we will take action on immediately.
So it was an individual vendor because I know that it's like you said, a dealer track won't allow you to do it. So maybe we have a problem with the vendor.
It's one vendor.
Right. And who's the vendor? Who is-
Virginia Interactive. Virginia Interactive. But I would like to, two comments to Barbara's point. Barbara operated with our law enforcement, Alicia Moore with DMV Vehicle Services Administration. Their case has been referred for a hearing. And the hearing is it's determined by the hearing officer for their right to access the print-on-demand system for temporary registration. So depending on the outcome of their hearing, their rights may be, they may not have rights, but that is to be determined at this time for this particular dealership. And secondly, we have not been able to see where someone could access remotely. So again, this is the first time we've seen it. And per our contract with the vendor, we've identified the problem, and thank you for showing it to us. And we'll move from there for further action.
Yeah, have you also come up with safety catches so you can't issue 4 or 5 plates to the same person? I think we talked about that in another meeting, that you guys were coming up with something that would deter or catch those before 1,100 plates get printed.
Correct. So we have limited internally with ordering the amount of paper, because we've been able to, we only issue about 150% of a dealer's retail sales. Once you get to that threshold, we are denying the dealer to have the paper. So if you do not get paper through DMV, you're not able to print the tag. From another standpoint, we're still studying the data with law enforcement, with what type of charges or what they find out in the field to see if there are any trends and a way. So once we do automate, we have the data to support if we make any changes, but that is still underway with.
Yeah, because this dealership reported 263 sales with 1,100 plates. So at some point, we maybe could have caught it months ago instead of, at this point. I don't know.
I have an issue with, and I know you're working on this, and I just want to make sure that we can do everything we can do, which is why, we introduced you to this gentleman here. I can print those temp tags on paper, stick them in the back window and drive down the street. So depending on that plastic paper doesn't mean you're not going to drive around tags or issue them. I've heard during COVID times, dealers were emailing these tags to people. So they were literally putting them in a PDF form on their phone and then emailing them all over the country for $50 or $100 a piece. So, I don't think the paper is going to stop them from committing crimes. I think it's limiting, number one, the tag that goes with a specific car in the dealer's inventory would be one threshold, but also limiting the number of tags the dealership sells based on the number they sell each year. I mean, our dealership sells, 80 to 100 a month. That's my standard. You can look back for years and see that it's what it is. I'm not going to jump up and sell 1,500 cars next month. So that would be something that would set off a red flag.
And Chris, and to your point, and I do not have any objections to your point. However, in the industry, we were allotting the transactions because you have originals, reprints, voids, extensions. There are other transactions into consideration. And if we cap it off at a certain number, we did not want to hinder the dealership's business. And we tried, DMV trying to save our lane. So, there may be further discussion as if we are looking into automation, maybe that will open a door that we can partner with you all to to see what could be the proper threshold once we get to that point. We didn't want to overstep to hinder anyone from being able to sell a vehicle and a customer drive off their lot.
We're thankful for that. Thank you. so
I have a
much.
question also. Out of this 1,140 tags, any of them are issued legit? Basically, with these 200 or 300 cars itself?
I think to my understanding, and I didn't look at their particular case extensively, I think some of them may not have been legitimate, because if the customers may not, if data may have been manipulated. That's the trend that we've seen where dealerships have, with dealers have changed date of birth, made different names. There are other things that we've been catching in these hearings, and we're seeing. So for this particular gentleman, I can't necessarily say if that's what he has done.
Because the reason I'm asking, you know, of course, as Maria says, 60,000 is acceptable, but could be selling 200-300 cars a year. Some of these tags could be multiple, you know, issues, and could be actual sales.
Right, could be actual sales, some could have been reprints. I'm not 100% sure to say that's what
Is
happened.
that any way
We can find that out, yeah.
maybe we can find them based on the ones that were issued, take that?
I thought
But
that's,
if that's what the board is like.
So there were 3 issues with this case: lack of documentation, W-2s for salespeople, and POD tags. They could only find documentation of 6 legitimate POD transactions. They started at 1,191. They reduced it to 1,140.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you know, you get to a point where you're kind of chasing your tail, but they had no documentation, no logs, no nothing for us to go back to and try to say, okay, what was legitimate? We're all supposed to be keeping those logs and that data so we can fight our own case.
Can I, like on the case of when they did come to the dealership, it was a case where Nat was getting the paperwork straight. When he got out the hospital, he was getting some of the paperwork straight, and he had a bulk of the paperwork with him, which he was filing, getting straight. And they had supposed to came back 2 times. They supposed to came back and did a reinspection. We had everything in order and everything was there at the dealership, and they never came back for that second or third inspection. So that was a bulk of the big number. And which I did comment, and I said, like, we did have, it was like 900 and something deals that was in the files, other than the 1140, 1190 that they say.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we at least have the person that printed all these tags named so that if they apply for a sales license or anything at the DMV, it's flagged?
I don't think they know.
Again, if they can figure it out and they know who it is.
Well, they haven't proven who it is. They're saying it is.
Folks in the dealership know.
Yeah, they do, but you gotta prove it criminal.
yeah, I guess my comment, I appreciate them coming in and, you know, anytime somebody comes in and states their case and, you know, you appreciate that. And I could get behind a reduction in fine if that's what the board holds, but everybody that sits on this board is a dealer operator, and we all have to follow these rules. We all have to abide by these things, and we're all responsible. I'm responsible for my dealership's temp tags and print on demand. And for this to go on for 8 months with the number of tags that were printed and not have anybody stop and say, whoa, something's wrong here before you got inspected, in addition to the fact that we've got other licensing issues and W-2 issues and other record keeping issues, I certainly think we still need to send a strong message that the dealership's not been operating properly. And it wasn't until they got caught that we're talking about getting corrected. Again, appreciate them coming in and would love to have them be able to rectify it, but we can't ignore that there were that many gross violations that nobody caught. I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling to me that a dealership that sells 200 or 300 cars couldn't see that all this stuff was going on for that long. But that's just my comment.
So I feel uncomfortable though. At $60,000, I don't know if that's considered a death penalty for them. if they'd be out of business. But if they did 1,100 tags at $50 a tag, it's about $59,000. It comes right out to the thing at $60,000. If they were selling tags stolen that good, they wouldn't be selling cars. They'd be in another business. But the software was supposed to protect the dealer and the state, and the software didn't do its job either. So I just got real issues at this point. Maybe we need to kick this can down the road, because you still got the state investigating it, right? Ma'am, the state is.
It's going through a pod hearing. Right now, we just closed our investigation unless we have further information to reopen.
And they didn't sell 1,100 tags at $50 a piece. They just saying, no, all due respect, y'all ain't that good. Yeah.
Well,
They
we
didn't
we
do
don't
that.
know that.
We don't
I can
know.
go on his cell phone and print tags here sitting in the audience. You don't know they didn't do 1,100 tags.
At $100 a copy, I might add.
Yeah, I mean,
And we can really do that. And I'm gonna tell you, I think 120,000 is probably appropriate. I hate to take umbrage here, but it's criminal. And I think we understand that. We just can't find out who it is. But I think we have some ideas of who it is. And it could be $100 a copy. And we're all responsible for that.
What role do you all have in helping the law enforcement figure out who it is?
We've been cooperating. They came to the lot like 3 times. So we've been cooperating and letting them know anything that they need. So with that case and the other case that's in Richmond, so we've been cooperating with
Yeah, I
them.
kept doing that.
are these DMV investigators coming to your lot, or are they motor vehicle dealer board field representatives?
Portsmouth Police, and then state police for Richmond came.
So that was a separate issue from what this is here.
Mhm.
So have you cooperated with the dealer board on who you believe printed all these tags out?
No one asked, but
No one asked?
we
you that?
just, yeah.
Tell them who did it?
Yeah, they didn't get that deep. Like, they didn't get that deep until the paperwork. They didn't get that deep. They posted came back. They didn't get that deep. They just stopped by, looked, and that was it. They didn't even look that deep. So, but I can say, like, they're finding us $250 per tag that was printed. That's the bulk of the money. $250 a tag per printed.
No, I don't think that's right.
That's,
You know,
250 or
regardless of
50?
it's 50.
it's 50. Oh, they said 50. Okay.
So just for clarification, because I thought you said a minute ago, you all have pulled together the records. So are you saying that now not all of the 1140 or 1040, whatever?
Most of it, most of the
you can
paperwork,
account for?
most of it, yes.
The only thing I had a problem with, Commissioner, is he said he accounted for 940 of those.
I ain't say
They only sell 200 a year. Yeah, comment? What's that?
Yeah, Vice Chair, regardless of the recommendation that we make today, this dealership will have an opportunity to appeal this decision if they got additional information to bring up. If we look at what's in front of us today on the hearing office recommendation and everything that's in this book, looks like everything come within house. I don't think this was an outside source. So we need to look at what's in front of us today. You can't take pity's sake on somebody because they didn't do their respect of overdoing the job they should be doing. So I don't think the $60,000 is too much of a fine today. They knew what was going on, and I think that's where we need to leave it.
Are there other comments?
Yep. I want to be very cautious, and this is your committee, Ron, so please forgive me. I want to be very cautious on running out here to reduce these fines on these temp tags, because we're telling people it's more profitable to cheat than it is to pay the fine if we keep reducing these fines, okay? In a case like this, where this gentleman's taken the time to show us how they're cheating the system, he showed me on the cell phone a few minutes ago how you can order a set of temp tags right from your cell phone. I think that's helpful to us. Now, if we don't do anything with that as an agency, then that's a problem. But I think there's some maybe goodwill that we could give to these gentlemen today to reduce that fine. I'm with Mr. Slaughter on that. I think it's a little bit heavy, and it could be for a small company like that, it could be a death sentence for them. $60,000 payable in 12 months is a lot of money. So I'd be for reducing the fine, by as much as half. And that's how I feel about it. Anybody else want to comment or let me know how you feel about it?
I agree, because our software didn't work. I mean, so we got to show this, if we're really being fair and balanced, we got to show this some of this as well. There's a reason it's only supposed to do 1 or 2 is because we know people nature. We know that's what happened. And that's why the contract should have had that in there. You said your other program work, what do you all use?
The other track, but
Yeah.
we don't know that I don't know that it has been proven that the software didn't work. I think when they were talking is that it's only supposed to be allowed to print at the dealership. But I don't know that all those plates weren't printed at the dealership, and I don't think the inspectors can say the same. So I don't know. I mean, with all this technology of looking up IP addresses and whatnot, I mean, I don't understand how they can't find out who did it or where it was done. I mean, at this point, I mean, we have manufacturers that if we do a survey for a customer, and they know anywhere in the world where they're doing it, they can track back and find us for doing that. Surely they can find out who printed a plate somewhere. So I mean, the technology's there for them to do it, and I just caution that like I kind of like Steve's idea. I mean, if they supply them with more information, and they can appeal it, and it helps us more in the future of being able to catch these. Well, maybe we can give them reduced fine at that time. I don't know if that's possible, but I'm just cautioned to lessen the fine for something this egregious. And we've been through this before. I mean, Ron, I think we've had cases like this come before us before, and it's got to hurt. And if it's a death blow, right now, I don't think the dealership's operating properly anyway. I mean, is it really? I haven't looked at the reviews from consumers, but I don't know. I'm real cautious of reducing fines for something that's egregious.
Well, I have, considering Mr. Val's health condition, considering that system lets dealerships to get away with issuing dealer tax, that's a major problem that has to be fixed. Some people get tempted, some people we can't say 100% he's the one that issued these tags because it is under investigation, or it was under investigation. So he's kind of got victimized. And we need cases like this in front of us so we can, prevent situation like this happen.
I would
Because it will
disagree.
happen.
I disagree. I don't think we need cases in front of us like this. I think people
Well, we
do
do
what
have
they
it.
need to do, but this is not the only issue. This is not a dealership that's running the way it should. You have 8 salespeople that weren't licensed. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, in my opinion. But there's a lot of other things going on that not before us right now. And this is something, just like you said, I mean, at what point? I mean, you're not managing, you're getting $3 charges coming out of your bank account. Somebody's not managing it. And I'm sympathetic that he went through some health concerns, but it's not a dealership that it's not being run effectively. And we don't have a dealer operator in the dealership right now. Nobody's running the dealership. You have a bunch of salespeople, some that are not even licensed, and hopefully you have your license, but I don't know if he's even licensed himself, but who's running the store? So, with that, that customers are being affected by that. And I'm sure there's some other things that are probably going to come up that people are not getting their titles and tags or whatever, that there's something going up. So I think that you really need to be real cautious, because they haven't proven that they're a viable business right now based upon what's going on right now. So, my opinion.
So a couple comments for the board to consider, right? I mean, I think we all agree this dealership is not run properly. A lot of problems, records, whatever, licensing, W-2s, a lot of issues with this case. We have found out that the POD system is not working as designed to help protect us as dealers. However, in a case like this, where a dealership is this far off the tracks, they need that protection. Hopefully we don't, and we have temp tag logs and we're doing all the things we should. They were not. It's obvious. There are 3 elements to this case, right? So the W-2s, the prior warnings, the records, and the POD tags. If you're that cloudy on the POD piece, we could always reject the motion that's on the table. We could table it for a period of time and let law enforcement or whoever do their investigation and come back and address the 1140 number. If you really feel like there's a big difference between the 1140 and what truly happened. As you all know, I'm not a big fan of reducing fines because it sets a precedent, and we're not the Goodwill Department. We don't base fines based on how big the store is or what their ability to pay is. That's irrelevant. We base fines on the crime that was committed, crime or the actions that were committed or not committed. So if you're uncomfortable with the 1140, we could table it and come back after 60 days and decide what this true fine needs to be. If you're comfortable with the 1140, I would encourage you, let's move on. But that's really all it comes down to. Right? They could appeal it.
Well,
but we've got another case after this one's the same issue. And this is like the 6th one, 7th one in the last 2 dealer meetings that have been people stealing POD tags. So we do need to send a message.
so PODs are printed by F&I managers, their office, right?
Tagging title clerks, salespeople.
They
Whoever
should.
you designate to do
Okay,
it.
so for some of us that have numerous number of people, quite a few that can issue these tags, how are we gonna catch that when we go back to our, business, the dealership?
You're gonna do what you should do, which is make sure each one of those people that gets into the system has their own login information. And that login information, it sets precedent for who did it every time. So you can't share login information. A lot of dealerships do. Like this gentleman here handed it out to everybody. Here, go have fun. I'm going to get my surgery done. And they did it. So you need to have a different login information for each person that does it.
And how are we gonna catch it if it's a couple of deals like that?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
I mean, if it's 2 or 3 deals, are we gonna notice it versus 1,000 deals?
Everybody's got 2 or 3. I audited my files, we got 2 or 3. Okay, we're talking about here hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them.
Early on in your statement today, you said you was 90% sure of who did this. When the state police and the other people come, did you give this name to them?
Yeah, they didn't really ask, and I didn't want to be at that time because I wasn't for sure at that time. So I didn't want to give a name at that time. So
they was investigating you and they didn't ask you who you thought might have did it.
Steve, I'm sorry, the people who investigated the local police were not investigating this case. They were investigating another case. The case has not been criminally investigated that I'm aware of right now.
We did do an investigation where we looked criminally, but the prosecutor declined to prosecute.
But I want you to know, I do thank you for being honest and telling us about the software. I don't want you to walk away from this meeting and think nobody cared and that you helped us with the software and we still gave you the maximum. I think that was important what you did. And I think it does go to, it hopefully corrects us so that we can correct our software.
and the password was stolen. Like it was stolen. So it wasn't here given, but appreciate the board.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So, what is the motion?
So the motion that was seconded was the original motion for the total fine of $60,000. And that's what was seconded and needs to be voted on.
Yeah, inspection and operating force also.
Yes.
Okay, so $60,000 penalty, inspection, and the dealer operator class within 90 days is the motion.
That's what we'll second, yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? Ready to vote? Let's have a show of hands. Those in favor of the motion? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those opposed to the motion? Motion carries.
Tab 3, William, our resolution for South American Motors.
Okay. South American Motors and Elva Benitez. Whereas the board has reviewed and considered the facts and evidence and the report of an informal fact-finding conference as prepared by the hearing officer concerning South American Motors and Elva Benitez for alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1559, and 46.2-1575, number 2. And whereas based on due consideration, the board believes that the following actions should be taken against South American Motors and Elva Benitez. 1, assess a civil penalty of $7,750. 2, South American Motors shall be inspected by Motor Vehicle Dealer Board Field Representative by June 14, 2022, and that inspection shall be satisfactory. And 3, Elva Benitez shall successfully complete the dealer operator course by September the 14th, 2022. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board mandates that Elva Benitez hereby be assessed a civil penalty of $7,750, and the South American Motors dealership shall satisfactorily pass an inspection conducted by Motor Vehicle Dealer Board Field Representative on or before June 14th, 2022, and Elva Benitez shall successfully complete the dealer operator course by September the 14th, 2022. Therefore, be it further resolved by the board that failure to comply with the board's mandates by the required dates will result in the suspension of all licenses, certificates issued by the board until such time the South American Motors dealership and Elva Benitez successfully complies with the board's mandates.
That is our resolution.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there someone who would like to speak to this issue? Okay. I'd like to ask for a show of hands for favor of the motion. Okay, all opposed? Motion carries.
Tab number 4, E&E Auto Sales.
E&E Auto Sales LLC and Marquise Johnson. Whereas the board has reviewed and considered the facts and evidence in the report of an informal fact-finding conference as prepared by the hearing officer concerning E&E Auto Sales and Marquise Johnson for alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1537, and 46.2-1559. And whereas based on due consideration, the board believes that the following actions should be taken against E&E Auto Sales and Marquise Johnson. 1, assess a civil penalty of $6,100. 2, E&E Auto Sales shall be inspected by Motor Vehicle Dealer Board Field Representative by June 14th, 2022, and that inspection shall be satisfactory. And 3, Marquise Johnson shall successfully complete the dealer operator course by September the 14th, 2022. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board mandates that Marquise Johnson hereby be assessed a civil penalty of $6,100, and the E&E Auto dealership shall satisfactorily pass an inspection conducted by a Motor Vehicle Dealer Board Field Representative on or before June 14th, 2022, and Marquise Johnson shall successfully complete the dealer operator course by September the 14th, 2022. Therefore, be it further resolved by the board that failure to comply with the board's mandates by the required dates will result in the suspension of all licenses, certificates issued by the board until such time the E&E Auto Sales dealership and Marquise Johnson successfully complies with the board's mandates.
Committee's motion.
It is.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yes, he was. I had discussion. And the gentleman was here, I think, and he left. Which makes my discussion uncomfortable. But this is not right. This one was, I'm going to guess, a new hearing officer who basically took a $61,000 fine and charged him 10%. There's no documentation in my book as to how he came up with that number. He just took a $61,000 fine and said it's $6,100. Doesn't talk about the salesperson issues, prior records, blah, blah, blah. This is not right. This doesn't fit what we're about at all. And I'm sorry I let this one get through. I guess I was on a roll. But we got to talk about this one. We really need to. We've charged everybody else $50 for a POD violation. The last one had 140 of them, and that's how his 7,750 came about. We're not charging this guy.
It's got 1,122.
Yeah. So, and I feel bad that he's not here. I think he heard the case, he heard the number, we approved it, and now he's not here to defend himself. So my opinion would be to maybe kill the motion and table it till the next meeting, when he can come back and explain to us what's going on. Well, you have to deal with the one that's on the table.
Okay, so is there any further discussion though?
I just had a question, and maybe I may have missed it. Is the issue in this case more of the temporary tags, or is there any other like unlicensed salespeople or anything? Because it does say personnel, I just didn't know. Ron, I guess at what point would be right? Is there another issue?
He was paying one guy, not W-2, but through cash.
Okay, I missed that.
So that was one issue that was on the table. I see.
I'm just trying to figure out how multi-faceted.
So there were 3 violations: dealer records, temporary license plates, and failure to provide proof of employment of license. So W-2 process.
Yeah, I'd agree if the case we just spent so much time talking about lines up with this one pretty well. Doesn't seem fair to pass over.
They had 779 original tags printed, 28 void, 751 reprints, and 653 transport tags.
2,200.
And the dealer presented information only showing 210 customer deals.
It's almost identical.
So we got an issue. We got a problem. I think Ron's made a great point. I think
We can recall it.
That's fine.
So do we need to vote down
Motion on the table.
Yeah, so the motion,
Down and then
and then have another motion after that? All right.
and the motion that's on the table right now is the 6,100 penalty inspection and dealer operator class. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those opposed? Okay, motion fails. Now, is there a new motion on the table?
new motion is we table this until the next meeting so that we can look at all the facts and figures more under the light of proper.
Okay, is there a
Second
Till the next meeting, right?
correct.
I think you all have to make a motion.
He did.
I think you just said-
Did someone, so you reconsider it?
Oh, we make a motion to reconsider at the next board meeting? That's our, yeah.
Second.
Hey, Ron, did you say that he's already paid this?
No,
61,000.
No, the fines originally were equated up to 61,000, and I think the hearing officer was new and wasn't really sure, and I'm just guessing. But he basically just picked a 10% number, and so the fine became 6,100 with no explanation as to why that was the case, and we need more than that. But I feel I don't want to go through the whole thing without him here because he heard the number and left. I would have liked it too. But so that's kind of why we're here.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, so the motion is to reconsider.
Reconsider the case.
Yes.
The case.
And table it until the next, or until the next meeting. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Okay, that motion carries.
Tab 5, car of mine.
Carmine and Amalfi Arias. Whereas the board has reviewed and considered the facts and evidence and the report of an informal fact-finding conference as prepared by the hearing officer concerning Carmine and Amalfi Arias for alleged violations of Virginia Code Section 46.2-1529, 46.2-1533, and 46.2-1575. And whereas based on due consideration, the board believes that the following actions should be taken against Carmine and Amalfi Arias. 1, assess a civil penalty of $500. Now, therefore be resolved that the board mandates that Amalfi Arias hereby be assessed a civil penalty of $500.
And that was for 1575. Records not available. We're not, the other 500 was, we took it off because that was for prior notification.
It is.
Is there a second on this motion?
Second.
Second. Okay.
They were here.
He was.
I'm here.
Yes.
He's here.
Yes, would you like to speak?
I would like to say that.
Someone just advised me that I should probably not say anything. I mean, the reason I'm here is because I really want a fresh start. And I feel like if I'm going to get this assessed fine, right? Or, what's going to happen over the next year? I don't know. I may be able to miss a day because I'm sick or what have you. Right. And I try to do everything right. And I did it at the last minute. My records weren't available, but I received a previous warning because my dealership wasn't open. That's the fine that I got. I learned my lesson. Right. So I really don't feel like I did anything wrong with this. And I still ask that it be waived. And if I do have to pay a $500 fine, I would like time to pay it. Someone said to me that, if you can't afford $1,000, you shouldn't be in this business. Well, I can't accept that either because this is my business and I want an opportunity to do right. So again, I will just ask that we waive the fee.
Thank you.
Any board questions? Any discussion on the board? Question for you, William, is payment plan part of this?
Not normally less than $1,000, no. But we will work with him, but he's not gonna have a long period of time to pay it. We may give him 2 months to pay it off. And for the record, Mr. Riz, if your dealership is going to be closed, you have a responsibility to notify the board that you are going to be closed if it's during your normal operating hours. If you fail to do that and the inspector shows up and you're not there, we're gonna be here again. That's your responsibility.
So I have a question. Is that, we're not gonna hold that against him, next time. I mean, he's paying the fine and.
Mr. Sagapi, 1533 violation, the board voted on this a couple of years ago. We're following the process the board voted on. If he's not open when he's supposed to be open, we'll be back here again.
No, my question is,
Was
if he
records?
pays this fine, is that gonna be in the future held against him that he was fined?
Nothing's held against you.
Because he said he wants to,
I
start
don't know
a
where that's
clean
coming
sheet.
from. We don't hold it against you. We show the fact that you paid your civil penalty.
So you can just pay this and move on.
Keep a clean record and keep selling cars.
Yeah, that doesn't mean he's not gonna get.
No, we're not going to deny his license, no, unless he hasn't paid his civil penalty.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, let's go to a vote. Show of hands, those in favor of the motion for a $500 fine. Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you for your report, Mr. Cody. Now let's move on to the licensing committee and committee chair Maurice Slaughter to summarize.
Thank you. License committee met this morning and we had a quorum. And we had one case. And recommendation, William, Jeff?
Yes. Jeffrey O., salesperson applicant. Whereas the board has reviewed and considered the facts and evidence and the report of an informal fact-finding conference as prepared by the hearing officer concerning Jeffrey O. for alleged violations of Virginia Code Section 46.2-1575, number 13. Whereas based on due consideration, the board believes the following action should be taken against Jeffrey O. 1, he should be allowed to apply for a salesperson's license. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board mandates that Jeffrey O. is hereby allowed to apply for a salesperson's license.
Is this your committee's motion?
I'm sorry?
Is this your committee's motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second on this motion?
I'll second it.
Andrew Wiley, second. Okay. Anyone like to speak to this motion?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
The word apply for a
Yeah.
salesperson's license?
That's the process. We got you.
I'm sorry. 'Cause
You're
I was
good.
saying, I
That's
just didn't know we had to go. through
He's
it.
got to
I'm
apply
sorry.
for it. and I got you. We got you.
Any board member comments or discussion? Vote. Those in favor of the motion? Okay, those opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Next meeting will be, what's it, May?
May 9th.
May 9th? I'm sorry,
May
May 9th.
9th.
We want to make sure. May 9th.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for your report. And now we've got the advertising committee, committee chair, David Duncan.
Sure, we did have a quorum. We approved the summary for last meeting. We did not have any, well, no old business or business from the floor, no new business, so we will be reconvening on Monday.
Thank you very much. And now on to the Transaction Recovery Fund Committee and Committee Chair Chris Mayer.
Madam Commissioner, we met this morning. We had a quorum, no public comment. We approved the November 8th meeting summary. No old business from the floor. And we do have three motions that we voted on. Item number 7.
Okay. Joseph Fasusi versus Washington Motor Cars. Whereas pursuant to section 46.2-1527.1 of the Code of Virginia, which is known as the Motor Vehicle Transaction Recovery Fund, the board has reviewed and considered claims and payment from the fund and the recommendations of the hearing officer on the claim. And whereas based on due consideration and the recommendation of the hearing officer, the board approves and acknowledges that Joseph Fasusi's claim should be payable from the fund. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board hereby approves and reaffirms the payment in the amount of $25,000 to Joseph Fasusi from the fund.
Had one. William,
Yes,
I've seen Washington Motor Cars numerous times. We're not
Yes.
4 times yet, are we?
I don't think so, but they have been before. Yes,
So it's.
we'll monitor.
maximum we pay out is up to $100,000, which is 4.
Yeah, we'll monitor it.
Okay, so we're not over that on these 2 here. Yes, madam.
Is there a second for the motion? Second. Is there anyone here to speak? Okay, any board discussion? None. Let's go to the vote. Let's just do ayes and nays. Finally. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries.
Next is tab number 8. Number 8, William.
Number 8,
Yes, sir.
Devon Osborne versus Washington Motor Cars. Whereas pursuant to section 46.2-1527.1 of the Code of Virginia, which is known as the Motor Vehicle Transaction Recovery Fund, the board has reviewed and considered claims for payment from the fund and the recommendations of the hearing officer on the claim. And whereas based on due consideration and the recommendation of the hearing officer, the board approves and acknowledges that Devon Osborne's claim should be payable from the fund. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board hereby approves and reaffirms the payment in the amount of $25,000 to Devon Osborne from the fund.
Chris, is this your committee's motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is there a second?
Second it.
Anybody here to speak to this matter? Okay, any board member like to speak?
Yeah, but one of these, I'm not sure it was this case. Was it one that so this business is out?
Washington Motor Cars.
Right, the owner was asking that we grant him his sales license so he can continue.
I'm not
Selling
aware
cars.
of whether they have a sales license or not. Does that come up, William, that you're aware of?
Excuse me, Lisa, you heard anything different? I know they're out of business, been out of business for a while.
I guess what Mr. Sagafi's bringing up is after they, hurt the state of Virginia for $100,000 and they're gone, are they able to jump right back in and start selling cars under a different name or a
I
different?
read that,
location?
and I'm not sure which one was it, that he says he filed bankruptcy. He wants to come back as salesperson, work at another dealership.
If he has filed for bankruptcy or done something else, we'll look at that situation at hand at the time we get the application. So I can't give you a blanket answer. There are certain things that we can do, some things we can't do, but for the most part, the owner of a dealership that owes money to the fund, like this case would be, we do not allow them to be licensed until they pay the fund back.
They got that communication, but he's not allowed to get licensed and.
But if we deny a license, it can come before you, the board, and y'all can give him the license. We deny him. So there's a process there for him to get a license if he really wants it.
That's a great question.
You got a motion?
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we've got a motion to approve $25,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Madam Commissioner, we have one more thing, tab number 9, William.
Yes, Carlos Marino versus Automax Center LLC. Whereas pursuant to section 46.2-1527.1 of the Virginia Code of Virginia, which is known as the Motor Vehicle Transaction Recovery Fund, the board has reviewed and considered claims for payment from the fund and the recommendation of the hearing officer on the claim. And whereas based on due consideration and the recommendation of the hearing officer, the board denies Carlos Marino's claim against the fund. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby denies the claim of Carlos Marino of $25,000 from the fund.
Is your committee's motion?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Is there a second on the motion? Anybody here to speak to the matter? Any board comments? Anyone would like to discuss? Hearing none, let's go to a voice vote. Those in favor of the motion for no payment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for your report. And now let's move to old business. William Childress, will you give us an update on the dealer portal?
Yes, I will. Thank you. The dealer portal, from our last meeting in November, at that time, I instructed the board that we were going through the veto process, which can be a lengthy process depending on the us meeting certain requirements. I am pleased to sit before you today and let you know that a couple of weeks ago, we did receive full approval from veto to move forward the project. So information wise for you. We have some dates coming up here pretty soon. First of all, we met all the VETA hurdles. We've got the security exceptions. We have VETA oversight, which will cost us $400 a month. That's part of the contract. We had already factored that price in. There's no problems there. We have put the portal into our EVA financial systems software. So the payment data has been logged in and arranged, and to reaffirm with you, we will only make payment to the vendor upon completion of a task. So we have a schedule, and when they show us that things have been done and we can validate it, then we will remit payment at that time. So it'll be incrementally paid out as they complete the system. The kickoff meeting is scheduled right now for May the 12th. May the 12th. This seems a little bit far off, sitting here talking about it now, but there are things that the project team needs to do to be prepared to get ready for that kickoff meeting on May 12th. But we've been told that they're getting the team they want to assemble to handle our project is winding up old business and getting ready to start dealing with our project. The project line that they gave us is showing 1 year from start to finish. However, that 1 year timeline has built in delays in case things come up that they're not anticipating. So ideally, we should probably hopefully be done within 9 months of the start date. But the project plan does show a 1 year period. Again, built-in delays for whatever reason there may be. We did incur a small delay with the change of administrations, but it didn't affect us really that much. So we're ready to move forward. The vendor's name is a Systems Automation. They're based out of Maryland, I believe, but they have many projects in the state. And as we told you during the meetings for this meeting, there are several state agencies that are online with this system right now. They're licensing agencies as well. So we're pretty comfortable they can get the job done. We're hoping that it can be a state-of-the-art implementation once we get started. So I've asked Mr. Cody, since he is the vice chair of the committee and also one of the people dealing with the salesperson's licenses, to attend the kickoff meeting. And Christian, if I may ask of you, since it's a kickoff meeting and not a board meeting, is there a limitation on how many board members can attend should they choose to do so? We still held to the same restraints as if there was a board meeting.
You cannot have more than 3 members of the board meeting in one place. It will not be a public meeting.
Okay. Okay. So if others want to, I guess, participate, we can arrange it, but we do have a limit. And the kickoff meeting is just laying out what the plan is going to be. They will give us the project plan, identify the steps they're going to take, and probably I guess the first steps at least. And we just want him there as a board member just so he can come back and report to the board if necessary as well as to what he witnessed or what he's heard as well, or he can ask questions. But we're scheduled to start this on May the 12th. So what we talked about 2 years ago is finally coming to fruition. So this will be after our next board meeting. So our next board meeting is on May the 9th. 3 days later, we'll kick off this project. And then by the July meeting, we should have some information to report to you in terms of how the project is progressing. Any questions from any board members?
Okay, thank you, William. Now on to updates from VADA and VIADA. Anything you want to talk about, legislation or otherwise?
Sure. Good morning, Madam Chair. And members of the board. Ralston King with Virginia Auto Dealers Association. It's good to be with you all this morning. I just wanted to highlight a couple key components that we worked on during the legislative session, and I thank Madam Chair and DMV and the state police. We worked on a couple issues related to decibel levels and the restriction of decibel levels for vehicles. That was a piece of legislation that came out of a legislator here in Richmond in Northern Virginia. They're having severe issues with noise complaints. And so we were able to kind of work through that to make sure that there was no limitation on certain vehicles who had 85 decibel levels. They were trying to kind of cap that for any vehicle being sold and any vehicle being out there making significant amount of noise in the community. So that was some efforts that we worked on. I'll highlight 2 of the bills that VADA really focused in on this session. The first is within a franchise system, we focused on warranty and recall. That was been something that we've been focused on for many years, but we tightened up the language a little bit in terms of reimbursement and focused in on making sure that those rates for reimbursement for warranty and recall match retail, something that we certainly care about. And the rental vehicle piece is also included in that legislation. And then the last bill that we focused on was in regards to the Virginia Overtime Wage Act. If we take you back to last session, there was a bill that came through in regards to a state cause of action if you violate the Federal Labor Standards Act. At the time, many of the business industries were okay with that. However, with that bill being passed, there were a significant amount of exemptions from the FLSA, including the auto exemption that was not included in that bill. And so that put us in a very difficult position in terms of overtime. And so we were able to this year put that exemption back into the legislation. That affects new car dealers as well as used car dealers. So certainly an important piece. The warranty recall bill is on the governor's desk waiting to be signed. We expect that to be signed. It came out of both the House and the Senate unanimously. And then the Virginia Overtime Wage Act bill has also passed. There were a couple modifications that went through the entire process. And so now we expect that to be on the governor's desk soon to be signed as well. So we're happy to take any questions. It was an eventful session. But we certainly feel happy with the proactiveness that we took this year. Thank you.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time if Mr. Childress wants to speak about HB 316, but I would like to address the board on a public matter instead of for now. And that is in regards to the print on demand. Can I address in regards to the print on demand violations from the floor? I appreciate that. As executive, my name is Alan Melendez. I'm executive director for the Virginia Independent Auto Dealers Association. I noticed that today that all the dealers that were in violation of the print on demand were online dealers, which means they're mandated by the state to be an online dealer because they sell over 100 cars a year. Because of that, Virginia is one of the few states in the United States that allows dealers to register a car without a title present, which is called title held. So I saw some people making excuses that because the COVID-19, they were not able to register cars and they had to reprint tags. Now, if there were dealers that sold less than 100 cars, I could see the reason why some of them were reprinting tags that were not allowed to go into DMVs, they're not allowed to go to processing centers. But with being able to be allowed to print and get hard plates for consumers and pay the taxes that you're supposed to pay within 30 days of selling a vehicle, I don't see the reason why people have to reprint tags. Now, there are going to be some exceptions. I have seen a lot. Sometimes a car gets sold at a wholesale auction that was just recently traded. For some reason, that title hasn't been submitted yet. And sometimes the system won't allow you to print hard plates on it because from another state is held or something like that. So there are going to be exceptions, but not exceptions for 3, 4, 5 reprints. In my previous experience as a car dealer, I did reprint some tags sometimes because some copiers, the way you put the paper to print, if you put it wrong way, it will not print on the registration part the correct way. The registration part is only one way. So if you don't have the perforated part for the registration part, it will print on the top instead of at the bottom, and you can't tear that up. So you have to reprint the tag. So I don't know if the system or whoever's involved is looking at that, but what I did in those things, in those instances is I marked void on that tag, I put in my deal jacket and reprinted it the correct way. That's all I wanted to say in regards to that.
And we will call it a request.
Okay. So I just wanted to make it clear to some of the members and some of the franchises that are not so much involved in the print on demand, that Virginia is one of the few states that do allow to, get the whole process go through what is called a title held Also, via ADA in connection with DMV, we teach title classes twice a year for those dealers that want to send their title clerks or dealer operators to learn how to properly, do these title processes. So we're very familiar with the print on demand. Thank you.
You can speak to 316.
Okay.
Yeah, this is your period to speak on.
Okay.
legislation.
So this is gonna be quick. I'm going to speak about HB 316. It's just one page. My cough is wearing out. Thank you, Mr. Childress. Thank you for the opportunity to address the Commissioner, Motor Vehicle Dealer Board, and invited guests here today. VIA ADA is one of the approved vendors that currently teach the recertification class. As the association's executive director, I meet weekly with the NIADA, which is National Independent Auto Dealers Association, and other state executives to improve the practices and reputation of the independent auto industry. I felt it was our due diligence as an association that represents independent dealers to look for ways to improve the current recertification class. In the last 6 months, we have seen Motor Vehicle Dealer Board fines in excess of $250,000. And it is because of these violations and fines that HB 316 was created to update the existing Motor Vehicle Dealer Board regulations. We want to educate our dealers better and more often, while at the same time send a message that Virginia dealer operators are informed, are educated in the industry, and care about consumers. We want all Virginians to buy in Virginia and feel confident to buy from us. Some of the highlights of HB 316 are: recertification time will change from 36 months to 24 months. We saw the need for that because a lot of people take the dealer operator class, but they don't open. They have 3 years to open. We saw some people here that have been in business 2 or 3 years and already been in front of the board. The reason is they don't open right away. So they don't open right away, they open 2 years later. They don't recertify till 3 years later. Now it's been 5 years and they were not in the car business before. So it's a major issue there. So that was one of the reasons why we cut the term. It will go from 6 hours to, it will go from a 6 hours pre-recorded slideshow to a 4-hour instructor-led class in person or virtually. This will allow dealers to ask questions and get the answers from industry expert teaching the class. In the past, it was just a slideshow. You go to the slideshow, you get recertified, boom, you're done. But you don't have questions. There's a lot of concerns about the IRS 1099 forms. There's a lot of questions about different things. We have a lot of dealers that are enough in this country that will ask questions and need to ask questions. And now they'll be allowed to do that. Now we'll be able to have instructors in those classes and they'll be able to have the answers right there. For the monetary part, it will increase the motor vehicle dealer board fee from $25 to $50, an increase that has not happened since the recent process began in Virginia. The max amount of the class will change from $250 to $300. However, none of the current providers charge that amount up to now. Currently, VIADA members pay the motor vehicle dealer board fee, which is $25. That's all we charge our members of the association, and the non-members $75. So it's a max fee of $250. We don't charge the non-members that. VIADA plans to teach these classes in person with a schedule similar to those that we teach the dealer operator class around the Commonwealth. The virtual class will be available at flexible times, including weekends. We also, during the weekends, we'll try to make them accommodate to people, so according to their schedules. We're only one of the 4 providers, so other providers will also have classes available for them. We also plan to have at least 1 free class a year. This will be available to members and non-members at our convention. They do not have to register to a convention to get access to the free class. It will be the day before. So our convention starts Friday night. It will be Friday afternoon. We'll teach the class. They want to go to a convention, fine. They don't, that's okay. But we will have at least one free class available for members and non-members. Now I would like to read an overview of how the bill passed. On January 25th, House Subcommittee voted 10 yeas and 0 noes. On January 27th, House Transportation voted 22 yeas, 0 noes. February 2nd, full House vote, 98 yeas, 0 noes. February 17th, Senate report from Transportation, 15 yeas, 0 noes. March 2nd, Senate Finance and Appropriations, 15 yeas, 0 noes. March 4th, Senate vote, 39 yeas, 0 noes. March 9, signed by the House Speaker. March 10, signed by the President of the Senate. It passed unanimously throughout the process. I am proud to let you know that the VIADA is committed to educate dealers, holding our industry to the highest standards and lowering the number of dealers that come before this board. Thank you very much.
Is there any other old business? Okay, and new business, obviously William was going to speak on House Bill 316, but I assume that has been taken care of? Or
Not
do
too
you have
much,
more?
different perspective, but thanks for the report nonetheless, different report. And my perspective, our perspective was a little bit different because of the law passage, and to my knowledge, it has not been signed into law by the governor yet. Okay, so until it's signed by law, we can't really do anything. But we're prepared to move forth with the legislation and any changes the governor may make to it, because he may make a change to the legislation. I don't know for sure yet. The board staff is going to meet with the vendors pretty soon to sit down and go through the requirements of the legislation to make sure that all of our vendors are in a position to come before the board if required in May to be approved officially by the board. I need to work with the AG's office on some language, but since they're already under contract now, under the current process, I don't know if a new contract is required for the new process or we can just continue, but I'll work with the AG's office what we can do. But right now, as he stated, there are 4 vendors, and we anticipate all 4 vendors being able to do this class going forward. This legislation, if signed by the governor, does take effect July 1st of this year. So we only have the May board meeting to consider the applications. And if they all don't make it through the May board meeting, during that board meeting, I would then seek permission from the board to be the approval authority between that May meeting and the July meeting, so that we do not have somebody not able to participate July 1st. This is another two-month gap there.
Do you anticipate any additional vendors wanting to come forward?
I would say no, but I wouldn't be surprised, but I would say no right now, yes. And if we do, then that might be a different process because they've never been before the board. Where the 4 we have now have been before the board, have been approved by the board to do recertification, but we'll work through that. Okay, so as I said, so the biggest thing is going to be that the next board meeting, if all 4 of them are ready to move forward, then you will be seeing the package if we have to do such. Again, when I talk to the AG's office, we might not have to, but we'll look at that real closely pretty quickly. But I just want the board to be aware of that, because if not, let's say 2 of them are not ready to move forth in May, then you may need to, if you so choose to do so, give me the authority to make that decision on behalf of the board between the May meeting and the July meeting. Because the July meeting is after the July 1st date. And that's all I have with that.
Sir, questions? John Summer, State Enterprise. May I ask who the 4 vendors are?
And
3 vendors.
3 vendors? Okay.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Okay, and next item is the AMPA Region 2.
AMPA Region 2, yes, thanks, Madam Chair. The American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators, which DMV belongs to, and meets regularly and has various conferences throughout the year. One of the things that we've been talking about in this board meeting for the past half a year has been dealing with POD tags and issues around POD tags. They're having a meeting in Mobile, Alabama, first week of May, and I've been asked to participate on a couple of their panels. And these conversations are around what we're doing here in Virginia to combat the illegal issuance of tags, whether it's POD tags or temporary tags, depends on what jurisdiction you're in as to what it's called. Other states around the country are having serious problems with this, just like we are. But to my knowledge, we're probably one of the few states that's actually doing something about it. And I think going to the AMPA meeting and being on the panel and speaking to it will give other states and other jurisdictions an opportunity at least to see what we're doing here, because it may be applicable in their jurisdictions as well. So that's why I'm before you. And also the other panel that they want me to sit on is dealing with new car purchasing, your traditional brick and mortar, and then your online purchasing and the things that we're doing here in Virginia as well. And in addition to that, I'm being asked to be there because I am the vice president of the National Association of Motor Vehicle Boards and Commissions. And I will be there also in that capacity. But in that capacity, there's no money associated with that. So I'm here before you to let you know that I will be in Mobile, Alabama during this time period. And I, of course, need your blessing to do so, because the financial piece of it has to be in the minutes someplace that I do have the board's permission to go to this conference to speak to these issues.
We don't want you to stay somewhere nice. Can you make sure the door's open to the outside of that lobby?
I don't know. I don't think it's a resort, but
Yeah, it's not like it's Disney World or Mobile, Alabama. I will just say that certainly we find very great value in the AMBA community, and there's a heavy vehicle and law enforcement presence at the conferences, a lot of great best practice sharing. So I certainly support William going to it. It's a very valuable experience.
You need a motion, William?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve William to go to AMBA. I'll second.
Okay, so all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
So that's one.
Now we
Do
wanna vote on driving.
you want to vote on the star ratings in the hotel here?
No. No.
So we put a cap on it.
The state puts a cap on it, don't worry about it.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, and as it's been mentioned multiple times, the next meeting will be May 9th in this room. So, any other business, new business from the floor? Okay, and William, for an executive director's report?
Yes, thank you and welcome aboard, and hope to see you many more times in the future, Ms. Ford. So welcome. My report is going to be more of a, well, you'll see how it turns out. We have vacancies on the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board staff. Right now, we have 2 vacancies in the field. One is in the Northern Virginia area that used to be, I guess, roamed by John Smith. John retired. And when John was working for us, John was a part-time employee. We have since made that position a full-time position because of the amount of dealerships in the area. And we feel it was more appropriate for a full-time person versus a part-time person. So we're in the process now of trying to fill that position. Lisa Mike Nelson, who is the field representative supervisor, is preparing applicants rather, for interviews here sometime soon to hopefully fill that position. We also have a vacancy here in the Richmond area, which has always been a part-time position, and we are going to keep it part-time. The position that we had in Northern Virginia that I spoke of earlier, that was part-time once before, we took a inter-office full-time position and moved it to the field because we have a maximum of manning of 25 people for our agency. So we're working within the rules and we're putting the resources where we need to get them to get the job done. But hopefully by the next board meeting, I'll be able to introduce to you 2 people that we've hired to fill those 2 vacancies. In the meantime, and in the past year and a half, what we had to do is we have taken field representatives from other areas to come into the Northern Virginia area or Richmond area, and Lisa herself at times to go out and do the work that needs to be done. So while we do have some, we might be behind a little bit in those areas, we're not behind on the critical issues. We have opened dealerships, we have closed dealerships, we have done the investigations. Okay, but the normal random inspections for the most part, we're not doing. And I think Ann can vouch for this. I've even opened a dealership, even though it wasn't the best opening. I have done one to compensate for a lack of personnel. So, but we are working on that. With that being said, we have today James Blasco. James, would you please stand? James Blasco is our field representative in the Fredericksburg area. About July of last year, we introduced to you another individual for that position. He's no longer with the agency. James is now in charge of that particular area, and I wanted you to see him and meet him. So James, you want to talk about yourself?
Yes, sir.
Briefly.
So my name is James Blasco. I'm the new field rep for the Fredericksburg area. I do have 17 years prior law enforcement experience. Prince William County, also City of Fredericksburg. I have worked for the City of Fredericksburg itself for 20 years. 16 years with law enforcement. Nice, sure. It's nice to meet everybody and see everybody. Board meeting here.
And James, now you see the importance of your inspections and how your inspections generate us gathering. So
I do.
Okay, so thank you for the job. And he's been with us for a little while now, not too long, but he's done an outstanding job. He catches on very quickly, and I think his background definitely, especially the different places he's been, is very helpful to him. And he's well connected in that region. So I think he's gonna do an outstanding job for us, and we're glad to have him on board. Thank you so much. Also, in the central office, we are about to have a vacancy. We have an employee who's been with the state for over 44 years. Jeanne Robinson. Jeanne, would you please stand? Jeanne will tell you that she left DMV 6 years ago with the idea of getting away from me, and then I followed her across the street, which is not true. It's not true. But Jeanne is a senior licensed technician with the dealer board. She has a tremendous amount of experience, as I stated earlier, 44 years. She was in the dealer licensing area before in other parts of DMV as well. But she is calling it quits April 22nd after 44 years of service to the state, which I think she gets to on April the 1st, if I'm not mistaken. And she's just looking forward to, I guess, getting her last days out the way and enjoying her retirement and traveling the world. So Jeanne, thank you for your state service. I'm not gonna put you on the spot to speak to the group. I want them to recognize you since you have been a valuable part of the organization. So I just wanted to recognize you. Thank you, Jeanne.
Thank you very much.
Marcia Morales. I hate to put you on the spot because I know you're not a person who wants a lot of attention, but I also want to recognize you because you are with DMV, not the dealer board, but you are a valuable part of this process. Marcia has been with DMV for many years. She deals a lot with the legal side of the, I guess, of the dealer affairs and legal affairs. And she'll be retired by the next board meeting. So I wanted her at least to be acknowledged by the board before she retires, because we won't see her again, I'm sure, after this board meeting. So Marta, thank you for your many years of service to the Commonwealth. Thank you for your help with us in terms of things you've done for us. And especially, this is the lady who not who does them, but she arranges the hearings for those who want to be licensed outside of the normal processes.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor to serve both DMV in this very important meeting.
Thank you. Last but not least, I want to recognize a board member who's been in business for over 52 years, and who we heard from earlier, who's told you he's been over 18 years with the dealer board under two different stints, I would say. But Mr. Steve Farmer is retiring. He is stepping down, and Mr. Farmer, you may have the floor.
Thank you, William. I'll be brief. As William said, 52 years, I've looked at a lot of changes in this business. My first 17 years was with General Motors, and my last 35 was with independent dealer. And immediately when I went in business, I joined the Virginia Independent Dealer Association. And they immediately put me to work. And 5 years after I was a member, in 92, 93, I was the state president. At that time, we had somewhere between 11 and 1,200 members, very busy. After my president ended that year, DMV started talking about forming this committee. And our association sent a group of names in, and my name was on that group. And I said, with all the good dealers that we've got in the state of Virginia, I probably won't be picked. But it won't long that Governor Allen, from his office, I got a telephone call that said, you have been appointed. We'll let you know when to show up. Our first meeting was right here. And when we had our first meeting, we didn't have an executive director. We didn't have a budget. We didn't have these committee meetings. So for several years, we spent once a month, not every other month. And when we would attend 2 days at a time. And a lot of times in between those meetings, the different committees that we was on, we would have to come back here. And hiring our first director, I was on that committee. And we thought we made a good decision. We had a stack of resumes, and we narrowed it down to 4, and we hired this gentleman. And it wasn't long that we realized the gentleman didn't fit this this dealer board here. So we're back to square one again. And that's when Bruce stepped in, and we immediately talked to Bruce. And every now and then I had to say, Bruce, slow down a minute. I don't understand exactly what you're saying. But we hired Bruce, and Bruce was a perfect fit for this board. And a lot of you on here had a time to work with Bruce. As William said, I've been on this board almost 19 years. And after that, I was appointed by 3 more governors. I have been appointed by 4 different governors to serve on this board. I can tell you today, it's been an honor and a pleasure to serve. I think this board has come a long ways from the 28 years now it's been existing. I think it's a fair board. We slow down and we're making good decisions. I think we're going in the right direction. And I just thank you today for the opportunity to serve. And I'm happy and excited to retire. Great job.
Madam Chair, that's my report.
His lovely wife is present. Sandra Farmer.
And I can say my lovely wife, we was at Williamsburg Saturday on March the 12th. We've been married for 52 years. So congratulations. Here's my report.
Great job. Thank you very much. And that's quite a contribution to the Commonwealth. So we very much appreciate it on behalf of 4 governors. You said so that's fantastic. So, okay, I believe we are at our close. There being no further business to come before the board, I am officially adjourning this meeting. Thank you.
Great job.